Okay, so now that you're feeling fantastic hearing all the statistics, let's look on the bright side about what you can do about it. How can you make your space a safe one for 2S LGBTQI plus folks? Again, it's not about having a special space in your workplace covered in rainbow flags where you can go and watch RuPaul's Drag Race and scream, yes, queen, although sounds like fun. It's about making sure that every part of your workplace is safe. It's not about a physical space as much as it is about a culture shift towards psychological safety. So let's look at the building blocks of what it takes to have a safe space. First and foremost, policies. Think of these as like the foundation of a house. Are your policies 2S LGBTQI plus inclusive? Think about something like a maternity leave policy versus a parental leave policy. Maternity leave is a very specific term. It's in legislation. It refers to a person who has a child by biological means. But there are lots of different family structures. And what you say in your policies sends a strong message about safety and being welcomed. Procedures. Policies are one thing. How do you operationalize those policies? How do they become real? For example, your recruiting process. Do you use standard questions in all of your interviews? Do you ask everyone the same question? You should. Consistency is really important when it comes to safe space. If you don't ask everyone the same question, then you may have a recruiter who asks a well-intended question of a candidate such as, oh, I see you're wearing a wedding band. What does your opposite sex spouse do? In that moment, you've created a situation where I, as a 2S LGBTQI plus candidate, have to decide whether or not I come out to the recruiter. And it potentially starts me wondering about whether or not this is going to be a safe space for me to exist in. Language obviously sends a strong message. Many 2S LGBTQI plus people are experts in reading between the lines. So if we see language like he/she in a policy or document on your website, it sends a strong message that the organization is still thinking about gender as a binary. We may start to question whether or not your space is safe or if we should hide our identities. So ensure the language used in your policies and statements is explicit. Education, obviously critical, important around safe space. It's really important to make sure that everyone, and I mean everyone, understands the fundamentals of what 2S LGBTQI plus inclusion is, what safe space is, why it's important, and what is their role in creating a safe space. Everyone will come to this conversation with their own experiences and beliefs. And it's not fair to say that, oh, because it's 2023, everyone's down with this. And you can't tell or test for that. So you got to put everyone through the same training to make sure there's a consistency with the level of knowledge. Safe Space Champions program is something that I see as a leading practice that I'm a big proponent of, but I don't see it used terribly often. The idea is to create a specific program that trains people to be safe space champions. And this is going beyond education to actually turning people into active allies that are responsible for ensuring your space is safe. Should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. You got to have a zero tolerance policy. But beyond just having a policy, you actually have to enforce it. I have never seen an employer that actually enforces the zero tolerance policy without exception. There are always more exceptions than there are actual enforcement. And I'm okay with that to some extent. Situations of homophobia, transphobia, biphobia are rarely black and white. There's always gray areas in there. So it's important to give people the opportunity to learn and grow. But in overt homophobic, transphobic, and biphobic situations, you have to enforce that policy. Zero tolerance policies work because they set a tone. It doesn't change a person's belief systems, but it does set expectations, and it does change behavior, which is a win in itself. But before you start enforcing that policy, you need to educate people to make sure they understand what is expected of them. Symbolism is also really important. As 2S LGBTQI plus people, we are the invisible minority. You can't necessarily tell we're there if we don't tell you. So we're very attuned at looking for symbols to tell us that we're safe. The pride flag is a universal symbol that tells us that at least in theory, we're in a safe space. So put up the flag and do it in a very visible way. The only thing I will caution you is about symbolism is that you can't do it in isolation. If you hang a rainbow flag without doing the heavy lifting of education and policies and procedures, you may find that you have an increase in homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia. Putting up a rainbow flag doesn't make a space safe on its own. Celebrations, key component of safe space, because they bring people together in that space. Who doesn't love a celebration? Pride is the most obvious one. Every employer I know does a pride party in June. It's frankly exhausting. However, I will let you in a little secret. I don't share this very often, but I am going to be gay in July and August and pretty much every day of the year. Spread it out. There are lots of dates on the 2S LGBTQI+ calendar that you could choose to celebrate. International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia is May 17th. National Coming Out Day is October 11th. The Transgender Day of Remembrance is November 20th. October is LGBTQ+ History Month. Spread the celebrations out over the calendar and use them as an educational opportunity to help people become more aware about the experiences of 2S LGBTQI+ folks. Last but not least is signage, and this is a really important one. It connects to symbolism, and I mean literal signage that a space is safe. You can use this as part of your new Safe Space Champions program. Once a person's gone through that program, you can give them a sign they can put up in their workspace to send a message to ensure that everyone knows that they support safe space. And I wanted to show you some examples of what signage looks like. This is from the San Diego Police Department that they make available to shops and stores in San Diego to let people know that a business is safe. And I really like this. The objective is to help them crack down on homophobia, transphobia, and biphobia in the community. I'm pleased with it because they're taking their commitment one step further beyond their own locations to helping create safe space in the community. This one is something that we got from the University of Toronto. It's very common to see on these on campuses in various versions. It makes it clear that a space is safe for people from the 2S LGBTQI+ communities. And this last one is from a large retailer, and I don't have their permission to use it, so I'm not saying their name. But you'll see this in store windows across the US and Canada, which sends a message to the employees, the candidates that come to a job, and the customers that the space is safe. These aren't just stickers to put up and forget about. This is a sign of continuous commitment and a constant reminder that we need to work at keeping space safe.